everybody doing today? Amazing? Cold? Alright, so my name's Mandy. I am a 5th degree black belt. I've been training in martial arts for 30 years. And the art that we teach is a very scientific, street self-defense form of martial arts, which is nice for, you know, women's self-defense because it definitely ties in, and it uses a lot of kind of science and physics behind each move to make it that much more effective so that, you know, you can stand a chance to defend yourself against somebody that's a lot stronger than you. Okay, so we're going to talk about a lot today about how you can use that attacker strength against them. Okay, but the first thing I want to kind of talk about is prevention and kind of some things that if we were teaching the kids, we would tell them like the tricks that bad people use, right? But it applies to adults as well. They're just different. They don't tend to offer you candy, right? Though that might work, or the puppy would get me every time. So, but let's talk a little bit about prevention first. And so that's the most important thing, right? And especially if you're not consistently training your body to be a weapon, right? Because it comes down to muscle memory. And the science shows that you need to repeat something 3,000 times before it kind of becomes ingrained as muscle memory. So, you know, just keep that in mind as we show you some of the strikes. You know, you'd really kind of have to be conscious of it and practice them a little bit at home, you know, consistently to become muscle memory. But I think that prevention is huge, right? And everybody always asks me, have you ever had to use your martial arts? I have, but not in, you know, the striking sense. I have prevented, I know I've prevented a lot of situations from becoming into a situation where I've had to use it. So, you know, I think that that's huge, and so we're going to talk about that. So, first of all, just the whole being aware of your environment, right? So when I'm walking around, I see so many people that are just kind of like on their cell phones, carrying 5 bags, just completely oblivious to the world, right? And, you know, attackers will typically watch someone first to choose their target, right? They don't want to get caught, so they want to choose somebody that they think is going to be a good target that's not going to fight back and that's oblivious because they want to get you by surprise, right? And so, you know, you hear people say, and I've heard, you know, martial artists that have trained for many, many years, well, all of a sudden I was attacked and I just blanked out. I didn't know what to do. And that's because it was the element of surprise, right? Right, so if I was oblivious and somebody snuck up on me, I don't know that I would be able to defend myself because I probably would just have that moment of shock, and all it takes is that one moment for the attacker to be able to overpower you, right? So we don't want that element of surprise. So just, you know, the constant being aware of your environment. I thought that was mine. I have the same ringtone. But the constant just being aware of your environment, but, you know, not being paranoid about it, but just, you know, just always just, you know, peeking around, being aware of who's around you, right? Being aware if you take walks, being aware of who drives by you, right? I had a situation where I was walking my dog, you know, also too trying to do things at different times and not make a habit of, you know, I'm taking a walk every morning at this time. That can be tough to do depending on your schedule, but if you have a schedule in which you can rotate the times that you do things, that's ideal. Because again, attackers typically watch their victim for a while before, okay? The most common thing is that they'll find a person that they think that they can overpower, right? And so they're gonna watch your routine. So if you take a walk every single day at the same time, they're gonna know that. Okay, so good to vary up your times, but unfortunately, like when you have a routine like I do, I don't often get to vary up my time. So I was taking my walk at my usual time in the morning, and just this white, typical white van, right, drove by, but I just noticed, like, and again, whenever a car drives by me when I'm walking, I watch, I make eye contact. I want that person to see, I see you, I acknowledge you're there, and I see that you're looking at me, right? And that can, I think, avoid a lot. Okay, but so I made that eye contact, and it's just something that just kind of didn't seem right. I just got that uneasy feeling. He was kind of just looking at me, whatever, drove by. It was kind of going slow. And so then, as he drove by, I just took my cell phone, put it in my hand, and had like my thumb on the ready to go on the emergency 911 button. So that's a tip, right? Just have your, you know, phone ready to go. If you feel like something isn't right, just have it ready. And so then he comes back, turns back around, and he's driving super slow and just watching me. And he does it a third time, and I'm just like making complete, the third time I just made complete eye contact and held up my cell phone, like to indicate, and then he sped up and kept going. So, you know, that's an example, though. Of course, I don't know for sure what he was up to, but he was up to something because he drove by me 3 times and was watching me. And so, you know, that's an example of how you can prevent ever needing to physically defend yourself by that environmental awareness, by that eye contact, letting him know I see you. I had another incident where I was, after work, I was going for a jog around the Northbridge track, so it's where the old high school is, the middle school now, and it was starting to get dark, and I had pulled in. There was nobody else in the parking lot or in the track, but one other car kind of sitting there, and just something, I don't know, I got just an uneasy feeling, but he was sitting there and kind of like on his phone, but he just kept kind of peeking over at me. So on his phone, just kept peeking over at me. So I waited a little bit, but he stayed there on his phone. So I'm like, okay, like, because sometimes I question how much is this me just being paranoid because of what I do for a living, right? So I walked in, but I'm very, very conscious of my environment. Sure enough, as soon as I get into the track, he gets out of his car. This is the middle of the summer. He has this thick hoodie on, hood over his head. And again, I'm okay, whatever, but like, so again, like reading your environment. It's super warm out, middle of the summer. This guy's wearing a hoodie with his hood up. Right? Like he's not going to the track to jog, right? And nothing else is open in there. So so I'm like kind of at the other side of the track, and I see him like on this side, and he's again just kind of sitting there. Looks like he was pretending to be on his phone. Just kept looking over his shoulder at me. Okay, so I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to jog by him, right? Because as soon as I jog by him, I'm right in front of him now, and he can attack, right? So what did I do? I stood on the other end of the track and started practicing my karate. And I just stayed there, and I was facing him, watching him, and just like, I look like a complete idiot if this guy isn't up to no good. But again, I was pretty sure he probably was. He waited there for a couple more minutes, and then sure enough went into his car. So again, what was he doing in there, right? Like, so again, I think that prevention of an attack is just huge, and I think can't be overstated, right? I think there's so much we can do to prevent ever having to physically defend ourselves. Okay, so if something just doesn't seem right, trust that feeling, because even like I tell my little kids too, maybe they're not up to no good, right? Maybe it's completely innocent what they're doing, but you want to guarantee you're safe, right? And so all that happened there is maybe I looked like an idiot practicing my karate on the track, facing him, but you know what, either way, I'm safe, he left, right, and all is good. So but oh, sorry. And so if somebody's kind of watching you or taking a walk and somebody drives by, just make eye contact with them, right? Just and again, make eye contact, smile, and wave. Okay, you don't have to like, right? Like, what are you up to? Okay, but just so that you know, you see them, right? You're aware of your environment. You're not going to be taken by surprise. Okay, and so I've also heard of a lot of kind of things that people will do. Again, the tricks are kind of different with adults. One thing that I've heard of is putting something under your windshield. So you go into a store, they watch you go into the store, and they put something under your windshield. And I've actually heard of people using $100 bills before. So they'll put a $100 bill under your windshield. So you're kind of paying attention to your bags. You put your stuff in your car. So your car door is open. You start to get in your car, and you notice a $100 bill under your windshield. What are you going to do? Okay. So while you're busy taking that $100 bill off your windshield, he shoves you into your own car. Okay. So again, why is there a $100 bill under your windshield? Or
drive away. Go down the street.
Yeah, exactly. Take the $100 bill, but get into a safe area, drive to the police station, then take it out.
Yeah.
Or just, and even just a flyer. Hey, Parker's my assistant over there. He's gonna attack me after. He won't attack you though, I promise. I don't think. So yeah, or just even a flyer, right? Because that's common. And again, it might not be, something that's no good, but just be aware of your environment. And again, just leave it there, drive somewhere else, and then stop and take it out, right? And again, maybe it wasn't a problem, but that guarantees you're safe, okay? Also, like, just be aware of who's parked next to you, right? So if there's a vehicle parked next to you and you see someone in the car, so what I've done is if I come out to my car and just there's a vehicle parked on the driver's side next to me, and maybe I see someone in the vehicle and I just don't feel right about it, I'll get in the passenger side, right? So if that's something you can do that, right? Or if you really feel uneasy and you have the time to just go back in the store and come back out, or ask somebody to walk to your car with you, right? Okay, so just, you know, make those smart choices if something doesn't seem right. Okay, so another habit that I always get into as well is just checking as I'm walking to my car, just kind of looking to make sure there's no one under my car. That depends. I have a pretty low car, so I'm pretty confident that nobody could fit under my car. It depends on the height of your car, but that's another thing that they'll do. They'll hide under your car, and when you're, you know, going to get in your car, they'll have a knife and actually reach around and they cut your Achilles tendon. You can't, and again, push you in your car, and you can't, right? So again, just, you don't have to like walk up to your car and be looking underneath, but just as you're walking to your car, you can usually see from a distance if there's anything under there, or in the back seat, right? So there, even if you always lock your doors, but even that just makes it a little harder for them, but there are ways for them to unlock it. Okay, so just be in the habit of just peeking in your back seat before you get in there, right? Yes.
Do you notice if there's an increase, be it holiday or the time zone changes when it's darker with people with their?
I don't have
anything really.
I don't have particular knowledge on that, but I'm sure I'll have to look that up and see. I don't have any particular knowledge on that, but I am sure there are statistics where there are certain times a year where, you know, those things increase. I feel like around the holidays everything increases, right? Anxiety, depression, everything, happiness, all the.
Well, and it's easier when there's a lot more crowds. People can do things and disappear into a crowd.
Yeah.
As opposed to if it's a slow, you're out on a walk, nobody sees you there. But if you disappear into a crowd, what are you going to do? You're going to barrel ass people over, pardon my French, to try to find them. You know, I mean.
And I've heard a lot of stories too of people just stealing, you know, Christmas packages. So, you know, you're out shopping and you put them in, you know, overpower you and just grab the packages. So even things like that. So that, I'm sure, you know, is something to be aware of. And you just, again, you know, you got a holiday shopping and people coming out of stores with a whole lot of bags, not paying attention to what's going on. I just really always try to be conscious of, if you do have both your hands free, just be conscious of that, right? I'm not going to be able to use my hands, right? Don't, you know, walking around like with, you know, like just, if you're walking around with your cell phone out, that's just even an invitation for somebody to just steal your cell phone, right? We were talking about carrying your purse, right? And we see so many times just people having their purse just over their shoulder, just oblivious, and, you know, it's on the outside, and, you know, like just so easy for somebody to just snatch that purse. Which I'm probably going to be all over the place because thoughts come into my head as I'm saying something. But if somebody does want your purse, just give it to them, because nothing that's in there is worth your life. Because I also, like years ago when I started teaching self-defense classes and I was doing a lot of research, I had run into so many stories of elderly women. Actually, well, there's one story just sticks out in my head. She was in her 80s. A guy came to snatch her purse, and it's just that instinct of, no, this is mine, I want to protect this. So she pulled it back, and she started screaming and pulled it back, and he shot her and killed her. And there was $2 in her purse. $2. That one just really stuck with me, because, you know, just so sad, because, but again, it's just that instinct of, no, this is mine, you can't have it. Okay, so again, we can prevent from being a target, because if you're standing there with your purse on the end of your arm on the outside, you're a target, and that's likely to happen. Okay, but if somebody sees you with your purse over your shoulder in front of you, and if you're in a group of people, you know, it's in the center, right, they're probably not even going to make that attempt, because they know it's not going to be easy to get, right? So don't make it easy for them. But if they want a possession of yours, it's not worth risking your life. Just give it to them. In fact, throw it at them. And then you,
run.
because actually when you throw something, like the psychology of it is something is thrown towards your face, you automatically reach to catch it, right? We don't typically, the psychology of it, just let something smack us in the face. So, you know, throw it at their face to distract them, they can catch it and run, right? Same thing, think about what you have on you that you can use. So keys, same thing, you know, just throw it at their face and run. I know it's going to stink losing all your keys, but again, we don't want to lose our life, right? Or if you have something else that you have on you, throw it in their face and try to run, right? Okay?
Would you say you carry a pocketbook across body rather than on one shoulder?
Yeah, absolutely. A crossbody, and if I'm like, and I do it a crossbody and more in the front even, so that it's not making it easy for somebody to come up from behind or beside of you to grab it, right? It's a lot harder for somebody to come up in front of you and get it. Okay, so definitely, absolutely. And, you know, carry things that you can use as a weapon, right? So we want to be aware of our abilities to defend ourselves, but, like, you know, making noise is huge, right? Attackers don't want to get caught. That's the biggest thing, right? They don't want to get caught, so that's why they say yell and scream. But you know, even for myself, I feel like if I were in that moment, would I? I don't know. You know, I feel like we might freeze up, and especially as women, I feel like we're more taught to be quiet, and I don't know, like, so carry a little personal alarm, right? So they make little alarms that you can carry on your keychain and make a huge loud sound, so you don't have to rely on your voice in case you can't use it. I mean, I would press that and try to yell and scream so that everybody's clear somebody is trying to hurt a person, right? But that gives you an ability to kind of create that noise and distraction without having to rely on screaming as well, right? You know, carry mace, carry something with you that you can use.
Also, a lot of cars have a panic alarm if you're near your car and someone, and if you could just think to hit that panic alarm on your key fob,
yeah,
that's a big plus too. That makes a lot of noise and it'll draw attention.
Yeah, that's actually how, so I walk to my car, I have still a key with but I literally walk to my car with my keys like this and my thumb right on the panic button. Like I always do. Again, maybe I'm a little paranoid with what I do for a living, but for me, I mean, you know, I obviously work certain hours and everybody knows where I work and that I'm there and leaving alone, so just adds a little bit more of a, you know, so if you have your keys through, that's a weapon, right? And then your thumb is on the panic button. Okay, so again, just all these things to kind of think about preventing versus having to actually physically defend yourself. Okay. Or just like, you know, people can impersonate a police officer. There's even lights they can get, a little light to put on the top of their car, and sirens, right? And there are some bad police officers in the world, right? So even that, I've heard a lot of stories, not a lot, but some stories of that, not so much locally, but so if somebody is trying to pull you over, and especially if you don't know why they're trying to pull you over and you don't feel comfortable with it, call the police. You know, that's the great thing now, we all have cell phones, right? So call the police department and say, I'm driving, there's somebody trying to pull me over, can you confirm that this is actually an officer? And they'll confirm that for you. And if you're still not even comfortable, just drive to the police station. Drive to the nearest police station. If it's an attacker, he's probably not going to follow you in, right? But just, you know, they might get a little aggravated, but, you know, you're driving to the police station. But that's why if you call the police and then you tell them, please let them know I'm not fleeing, I'm driving to the police station, I don't feel comfortable, especially if it's an unmarked vehicle. And even if it's a marked vehicle, if they pull you over, you know, you don't have to, if they ask you to get out of the car, I'm requesting a female officer. You know, I'm going to call the police department first. I don't feel comfortable about this. Unroll the window just enough to pass through your license and registration, right? Okay, so just those things to think about, right? Sometimes people will come to your house. I'm from the gas company. There's a gas leak. I need to get in. Again, you know, don't open the door for anyone you're not expecting, right? So if somebody comes, yell through the door, what can I help, or just don't answer it, right? But what can I help you with, right? I mean, in this day and time, I think even if there was something like a gas leak, they'd probably notify you somehow, somewhere, some way else, right? But, you know, what company are you from? All right, I'm going to call the company right now and make sure, right? Call the company. Find out if there's actually somebody there. Just, you know, Just when in doubt, just make sure you're safe. Okay, it doesn't matter if the person actually really was legit. You want to make sure, right? And you don't know that because there's a lot of kind of those tricks that they use.
And any vendors are supposed to check in with the local police departments to tell them exactly what areas they're going to be in. And
Yeah.
they're supposed to have identifying badges, so you can always call the police and they'll say, yeah, that's them. They're
Yeah, and a lot of times too, if you follow the police pages, they'll often post, you know, we gave permission for solar or whatever to be knocking on doors today. But again, you just, like, if I'm not expecting somebody not, I don't answer it. Like, there's no, you know, they can, if it's somebody that they can text me or call me or whatever and schedule a time, right? But if, you know, I just don't answer it if I'm not expecting somebody and I don't recognize them. Because it's either going to be a solicitor that you probably don't want to talk to anyways, or somebody up to no good. So, yes.
When you were talking about being followed,
Yeah.
I assume that if you don't know where the police station is,
Mhm.
you just go to like an open business.
Absolutely.
Because, like, I'm not from Douglas, I wouldn't know where the police
But
station
absolutely, absolutely. I would. And, you know, or again, you know, if you can, yeah, I was just going to say, if you can, even like put it in your phone, but obviously we're driving, and if you're not good with voice to text and all that stuff, because I don't know that I would suggest pulling over. If, you know what I mean? Like, even if you keep your doors locked, like, so, you know, but absolutely, then your next step is to go to some place where that's populated, a business, something like that. Just find a nice big populated business to go to. But in the meantime, I definitely would try to call the police station, you know, and just even like have, you know, your local, I mean, obviously there's always 911, you know, if you have to, and you just say, I don't have the number for the local police department, can you patch me through or whatever, right? But yeah, that would be,
Just call somebody though.
just call somebody, absolutely, and let somebody
This
know
car
what's
is
going on.
following me, here's his license plate.
Yeah. Well, you can always, exactly. You can always call somebody and ask them to call and ask if there's an officer following a person with this license plate number or whatever, right? And also being in groups, right, is huge, right? So trying to, you know, if you know you have to leave somewhere, you're going to be the last one, ask somebody if they can stay and wait and walk out to your car with you, right? So, like, being in groups is huge because, again, you know, now an attacker has to overpower multiple people versus one, you're not going to be as big of a target, right? They want to find somebody alone, oblivious, and that they can kind of surprise. Make sense? Okay. So that's kind of what I have for the thoughts of prevention, right? So, you know, there's a ton more tricks. So just, you know, trust your instinct. If something doesn't seem right, trust that. And ensure that you're safe, right? And just like, again, use your, like when I was at the track and I saw that guy in the middle of the summer wearing a hoodie with the hood up, like that told me something, right? Like if something seems strange, it's probably, something's probably up.
But you know, I think ever since the 9/11 days, the term that people were using that you have to be aware of is be vigilant. Be aware of what's around you.
You have
I think
to.
that since 9/11 that has made you
Be aware
more
and
aware.
see something, say something, right? And if you see something going on with someone else, call the police, get them help, right? But you have to be aware. Because if you were carrying yourself, you know, if you're walking down the street like this or on the phone, carry yourself in a confident manner. Look over your shoulder. Let anybody watching you know this person is aware of the people around them, right? So important. Okay, so I now want to kind of go into a few concepts of kind of defending yourself. Biggest concept, I think, is learning how to use your opponent's or your attacker's force against them, right? So we're always going to assume our attacker is going to be stronger than us. So with that being said, you know, if I'm grabbed, for example, actually, Parker, if you don't mind, just grabbing me anyway, don't want it. Okay, so he grabs me, I'm going to assume he's a lot stronger and bigger than me because somebody is going to attack you that they think that they're going to be able to overpower you, obviously, right? So if I just sit here trying to like peel his arm away, push his arm away, and pull away, okay, I'm just engaging in a power struggle that, guess what, I'm not going to win. We've already established he's stronger, I'm not going to win, right? I'm wasting my energy and I'm taking time in which he can then overpower me and get me into a vehicle or whatever, right? Okay, so we're going to use his force against him. Okay, we can stop there for a second. I'll show you how we're going to do that in a second. But if you noticed, I actually pinned his hand to me. And I think that goes against what any of our natural instinct would be, right? Whenever I do, I should have asked you first, but whenever I do these classes, I always start with, if they grab you, what would you do? And that's usually what people will say. Try to push their hand off you. Try to pull away. Try to run away. Again, you know, even if I were successful at pushing his hand off of me, that's not necessarily stopping the attack. And now maybe his hand can go grab a gun, or his hand can just change attacks, right? But I have that hand under control. So I'm going to use his force against him. So kind of some ideas of how I can do that is, for example, if he grabs me with two hands, okay, so I can actually reach across both of his hands and pull my elbow down. That gives me leverage, okay? If I'm trying to hold him like this, he's going to be able to escape. Okay, so we're going to pull our elbow down, and he is pulling me in, so instead of resisting and trying to pull away, because I just determined I'm not going to win that battle, okay, I'm going to go with it, and the harder he pulls me in, the harder he gets hit with something, right? Whatever that may be. And I'm going to go over some strikes and kind of vulnerable target areas we can go to as well, okay? But we're going to use that concept of going with the force, dropping our stance down, because that's going to give me what? Good balance, right? Okay, somebody's trying to pull you over or get you on the ground and your knees are straight, they're going to easily be able to accomplish that. So back up straight, knees drop down and pushed out. That's going to give you that good stability, right? And I'm going to go with it and step in with it with one of the strikes that I'm going to show you, okay? So using his force against him. All right, so we have what we call our vital target areas, and so those are the areas on your opponent that would be, I guess, the weakest, but they're all designed to do something that could incapacitate your opponent versus just like hurting them or causing pain. Because if we're just relying on causing pain to an opponent, you know, we can kind of overcome pain, right, when we need to. When an attacker's adrenaline is going, right, so, or if they're on drugs or anything like that, they may not feel that pain. So I'm not just going to rely on trying to hit him in the stomach and hoping that hurts him enough to stop, right? I want to do something that is going to make it so that they, even if they don't feel the pain of it, they cannot continue trying to attack me. Okay, so, and I give you guys handouts. You don't have to really like delve into them now, or if you want to, you can follow along. Actually, if you want to go to the second page, if you want to follow along. So on the left, you're going to see these. Oh, yes, absolutely. Did anyone else need one?
I'll take one, Mandy.
Absolutely. You're welcome. So on the left, you'll see in this little chart here, there are some target areas, and then on the right are some strikes that we can use to go to those target areas. Okay, so the first one is the eyes, right? I don't need that. Okay, so the eyes, right? No matter how strong somebody is, their eyes are just as weak or strong, or however you want to look at it, as yours are, right? There's nothing we can do. An attacker cannot work his muscles in his eyes to build them up so that they can't be hurt, right? Okay, very easy to blind somebody, right? And so kind of my favorite strike to do that, to the eyes, where you don't, it's not easy to make a mistake. We call it a tiger claw, and that's going to be listed in there. You don't have to worry about the names, but if you just want to put your hand out in this position, you just curl your fingertips straight forward, okay? And you're bending your wrist, so you're sticking the palm of your hand forward as well. So actually what's neat about this is, number one, it doesn't take a lot of accuracy. We do have like eye pokes we can do, but that takes a lot more accuracy, right? Smaller surface area. So if I just shoot this towards him, something is going to get him in the eyes, right? But the great thing about this is it also, the palm of your hand will also strike his nose, likely, which is another one of our target areas on there. So this one could potentially break their nose and blind them with just this one movement, right? And that's not hard to do, right? So we want to try to come out on a straight line so it takes as little time as possible, because just a millisecond could mean a difference between it working and not. So I don't want to like go like this, right? I want to go wherever my hand is, straight forward, okay? I really try that a few times. So just practice going straight forward, not making any extra, and try to get that wrist bent up this way if you can, because if it's this way, you could still get them in the eyes, but again, I want a chance to get them in the nose as well. So we bend it up this way, that'll get both. So straight forward. So stay close to your body, right? Okay, good.
So what happens
happens if they have glasses on?
So I'm going to give you a whole bunch of target areas. If they have glasses on, I wouldn't choose this one. Okay? We got more to come. There's plenty more for you.
still get them in the nose.
But exactly, you can still get them in the nose, or you can just
pull
kind of
them
go
off.
from underneath and claw down, and that will rip them off as well. But I may, if they have glasses, I may just try to not bother with that and go to another target area as well. But yeah, because I wouldn't want to, you wouldn't want to take the time to try to grab them, pull them off, and then strike them. You would want to try to make it in the one motion. Because that's what you're going to remember too. As soon as you start fighting back, he has a clue you're going to start fighting back. So you don't want to get him in that fight mode either. Because again, who's going to win? Probably him, right? So I want to take them by surprise and do something that's going to incapacitate them, right? Okay, so there's
So when
the
you
eyes.
did that, you turned your hand, right? So you want your fingers on the top.
What's that?
You turned your hand to make sure your fingers on the
Yeah,
top.
yeah, yep. You want your fingers on top there. Yep, exactly. And then again, I can kind of rip down as well.
Short.
Okay. All right, let me go through all the stuff. Then you can give me all your what ifs, okay? Because I got lots more to go. That's okay. I got lots more to go, and that's the thing, guys. That's why we can't just learn one move, right? Because and also. We can't get too much into the what ifs today because, you know, a lot of the what ifs you need a lot more tools and training. So to take one class, I can just give you the most vulnerable target areas, but we can get into a million what ifs, right? But not so much in an hour, right? But let me go through all of the targets and everything, and then we'll kind of, because that's the thing, you're going to want to choose your target area that looks the most open, and also for yourself, right? If you have bad arthritis in your hand and you know that you just can't form this position, then you're going to know this is not one that I'm going to kind of look towards, right? So you're going to want to find the one you think would be the strongest on you, right? All right, so, and again, you can also just thumbs into the eyes as well, but you would want to bend your fingertips because if they're straight, you could likely hyperextend your joints. And again, you know, when we're talking about like, if I hyperextend my joint versus dying, I'll take the hyperextension, right? So, you know, because I always start off saying that too. When you're defending yourself, well, isn't that going to hurt if he tries to hit me and I block it? Yeah, but it's going to hurt less than the alternative, right? So whenever you're trying to hit somebody with something or shield yourself, yeah, it's going to hurt. But, you know, we want to minimize the damage to us and maximize the damage to our opponent. That's our goal, right? Okay, so again, thumbs too, super easy if that's easier for you, especially if you have arthritis and this isn't feeling so good, you get your thumbs. I bet 2-finger eye poke too, if you were to do that, you would just have your fingers together, but I don't really like that so much for a group like this, because again, you'd have to train that a lot, right? You have to form your position properly. Okay, this is just simple, all right. So next one, nose. Okay, so there's a couple of ways that you can break the nose. One of the easiest ways to break the nose is from like the top here, the bridge of the nose. So if you make a fist, which I don't tend to do a whole lot of closed hand strikes in a woman's self-defense, when we're not out there, you know, putting our dukes up here, but if to make a fist, and we would do this if we were blocking something trying to hit us or doing any sort of, you know, closed hand strike, you're going to curl your fingers all the way in so that your fingernails are underneath. So if you look at them, you really can't see your fingernails. Okay, you're trying to make your fist flat, and then your thumb is going to go all the way across, pointing towards your pinky. Okay, so this is going to protect your thumb, and you want your fist tight when we're actually going to strike, because if it's loose, that's how you get a broken hand, right? So tight fist. If my thumb were here, and I go to strike, my thumb could get caught in something and bend back and broken. So that's why I have it on top, okay? So when we make that fist, what I can do is come over the bridge of the nose with, you would be striking with primarily these first two knuckles. So I could go over the bridge of the nose that way. That's one way that we can break the nose. Okay, so another thing we can do to the nose is we call it a palm heel strike. And I'm just telling you the names again. You don't need to care about names, but they're listed on there so you'll know for reference. And so you have your fingers together, your thumb pressed in, again, for the same reason. I don't want my thumb out to accidentally get caught and broken. Thumb is in. Your hand is tilted back. So we want to just stick the heel of our palm out. Okay, so if I have my hand flat like this, that's just called a slap. That's not going to be very effective, right? Because you have a bigger surface area. When I tilt it back, I have this small surface area, it's going to be more effective. And so what I can do is come straight up. And if you kind of rotate into it, okay, you'll get even more power. Okay, so instead of like having it here and coming out from here, if you kind of have like it this way and rotate into it, you get even more power there. Okay, but again, we don't want those extra movements. If I swing my hand back like this, he's gonna see it come in a mile away, right? So I want to think of coming like straight up his body in his blind spot into the nose. Okay, so that's another option for the nose. And if you've ever gotten hit in the nose, like even if you get like just hit lightly, you feel like you broke it, and you feel like there's blood everywhere, even if there's not. But it doesn't take much to make that happen, and eyes water. And again, it would make it difficult for your attacker to keep attacking you. I would certainly use more than one strike to more than one area, though, and we'll talk about that after, right? Because I don't want to rely on just what if that doesn't work, right? Okay. For the nose, when you see downward back knuckle, that's this one, right? And then I also have hammer fist in there. So again, making that same fist, if you hit more with the side of your fist here, and I can do that through more of a side of his nose. You rake through with each knuckle, right through the side of the nose. But yeah, I think for you guys, probably this one would be the simplest to apply, right? Or this, it's not bad either. Okay, but there's just some options there. Okay, my favorite, the throat. Just go for the throat. That'll stop it. Okay, so striking to the throat. Couple of options. I think kind of the most efficient for this purpose would be called a half fist strike. So what we're going to do, instead of making that fist bolt up like this, I'm going to make that fist, but I'm going to curl these knuckles forward so that I'm making my fist flat. So again, my thumb is tucked to the side. I'm making my fist flat, and now you can see that that's going to fit into the throat better, right? And I can either go upside down this way, or I can, again, rotate into it to get a little bit more power, right? Okay, so if you want to try that, because again, you can see which one of these, again, this might be, if this is difficult, if you have arthritis in your hands or whatever, this one might be tough for you. So again, you want to find the ones that aren't going to be as tough for you. Okay, but this is a great one to use straight in this way or this way. Okay. Another option, which if this is very hard for your hands to form, might be better for you, but it could be a little more telegraphed, especially if he's directly in front of you, would be if you make that straight hand, thumb on the side, fingers together, and you would strike with this blade of your hand. This is called a hand sword strike. I think that's listed on there. Okay, and that can come through. But again, see how like I have to kind of come forward like this, so this is a bit more telegraphed, right? I like this more for if you were on the side of me, grabbing me, for example, I can come up. I'll show you some kind of ideas against specific attacks in a moment. Okay, but that one I like more for like if they're on the side of you, but it is an option. But just know it's a little more telegraphed than this is going to be, right? Okay, and also, oh good, I put that on there as well. Elbows. Elbows are actually your second most powerful weapon you have on your body, second to your knees. And the reason is because you're using the most powerful or the strongest muscle groups in your body, compact them together. So for an elbow strike, and if you want to try forming that, what we're going to do is just bend our arm. So point your elbow to the side, you can bend your arm all the way tight in half. And this could strike either with right below your elbow, right above your elbow. You can actually strike with the tip of your elbow, kind of depends on the path you're taking. So if I were, this is useful if they're very close to you, right? Okay, this doesn't reach very far, so if he grabbed me and pulled me in or I was really close to him, I can use my elbow strikes. Okay, so for an elbow strike, if I were coming through this way, I would be hitting more with below my elbow, right? So I would be hitting more here. But if I were coming through this way, right, I could hit with the tip of my elbow or the back side of my elbow. So really any portion here that you hit with is going to work. It depends on the way you're swinging it. But elbows could be used to swing forward. They could be used to swing out. They could be used to swing behind you for an attacker behind you, right? Or on the side of you, right? So again, if they're close to you, you have the advantage of being able to use your more powerful weapons and elbows are definitely one of them, and you can do that to the throat as well. So when you hit somebody in the throat, it doesn't take much to collapse their air supply. So again, if they can't breathe, it will probably make it difficult for them to continue attacking you, right? So your elbow strikes. We'll skip the next strike in there. Groin. Not my favorite target, only because I feel like guys are probably more expecting that than any place else. I don't know. When you attack people, are you? It's a loaded question, because in the dojo, yes, we're always. But still definitely a valid area, especially with like using a knee strike. So again, if he were to grab me, pull me in towards him, okay, and I can pin and go with it, right, and kind of launch right up with my other foot into a knee strike. So that what happens, the harder he pulls me in, the harder he gets kneed. But also, remember, I have his hands pinned, so he can't block that, right? And he's probably not even going to see it coming either because it's down low. Okay, so there's an option there. Same concept with using your knees. You want everything tight and together. So I don't want it like this, I want it like this. They're just going to be stronger. It's going to be a more powerful brace. And when you hit, nothing's going to collapse as well. Okay, so that is one option. If they're further away, then you have your kicks. Okay, so that's going to depend on, as far as kicking to the groin, that's a little bit high. So if you don't quite have the best balance, that's probably not going to be your best option there. But to do a kick, the first step is we would bring our knee up. We would chamber and aim our knee towards the target. And then the next step was we would kick forward and back. And if I were kicking to the front, I would use the ball of my foot, right? Okay, but I like the shin better for that, for your purpose, because again, if you're not training your balance and you don't have good balance, you wouldn't want to do anything. When you're kicking, the vulnerability is that you're on one leg, so you don't have good balance. And if you don't fire that kick out fast enough, you are making it so that he could potentially take you down easily, right? But if I just like to his shin, you don't have to kick high to do that. You don't have to have great balance to do that, and then your foot's back on the ground where we like it to be as quickly as possible. Okay, or
are you using the base of your foot when you're going for the shin, or your toe?
Yeah, so the ball of my foot ideally, but you know what? For your purposes, you can, with sneakers on, you can just even aim with your toe. Okay, we generally tell people not to do that because, you know, especially if you didn't have solid like shoes on, you could risk breaking your toes. I think under your shoes you'd probably be fine, but it's more curling the toes back and hitting with the ball of your foot, so it's really actually the ball here. But again, you know, for your purposes where we're not training this all the time and you're training your toes to go back like this, like if you did break a toe, like out of all things that could have happened and you make it okay, like you'll be good, right? Okay, but again, I like the shin for that front kick, just and to the side too. If he's coming at me from the side, he's charging at me, I can just kind of lean the other way and throw the heel of my foot in this case. So if I'm kicking to the side, I would use my heel, okay, and right to the base of the shin. You don't have to go high on that at all. Right here would be quite effective. Okay, but again, using his force against him, right? If he's coming at me, the harder and faster he's coming at me, right? Oops, sorry. The harder he's getting it. We try not to make contact with vital target areas, but
I'm used to the kids just full
the kids are brutal. Because they don't think they're strong because they're so much smaller than you. And just like, yeah. Spruce shins are occupational hazard for sure. We start them at 3.5, so. So anyways, so kind of that was skipping ahead, but if you were to do a kick, I would for you guys like that more to eat a knee as well, right? Especially like side kick to the knee, right? Can be quite effective, just the heel of the foot. I mean, if they were coming at you and you hit them in the front of the knee from that direction, it's gonna mess them up pretty bad. Okay, and again, if they can't chase you, they can't be very effective at continuing to try to attack you, right? So that's the concept there. And the bigger they are, the weaker their knees tend to be, right? Okay, but those, again, that's a weak point on the body, right? Like you can build your muscles up really strong, but you know, those joints, not so much. And the more weight you have going against them, the weaker they tend to be as well, right? So you'd want to go for areas like that. So again, you can see that those areas would do something. I'm not just relying on him being in pain. I'm doing something to make it so that even if he wanted to, like he just physically, if he can't see me, it makes it easier for me to get away and harder for him to keep attacking me, right? Okay, so kind of jumped around a little bit on that, but, and groin, I also put hammer fist. So like again, if he is behind me, like he gets me in a bear hug, for example. Okay, so I can, okay, making that fist again, using this part of my hand, I can swing my hand straight back at him in the groin this way. Okay, so that's a target that we could use if we're in close and they're behind you, or a weapon rather. Okay, so again, making that same fist. And again, though, your tendency is going to be to want to do this, right? But while I'm making all this time to get to my hammer, he's changing his attack or moving or something, right? So I don't need to do that to get enough power, right, Parker? If I just did this from here and hit you in the groin with that, mess up at least the next few minutes for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we won't do that. But so we're not doing this. We're just doing that, right? Straight back behind you. Okay. But again, we'll go over some more of like attacks and applications in a moment, just to get through the rest of these vital targets. So the knee, so we kind of talked about that. So knee is really going to be your kicks. Obviously, I'm not going to go down to hit him in the knee with a punch. So your knee could be that front kick we talked about. It could be that side kick. It could also be, we could do a back kick. So if he's behind me, to do a back kick, same step. All of my kicks, I always bend my knee up first. But because I'm kicking behind me, I don't need to come all the way up, right? I'm going to bend it up, and I'm going to flex, again, my heel out, right? So again, that could go knee, shin, right? And that's the great thing about that, too, is if you just aim something towards his lower part, you're either going to get his shin or you're going to get his knee. So you're going to get something that will be effective. Okay, so again, if they're behind you, again, that bear hug situation, or they're just coming up behind and you know he's going to attack you, and you don't even want to wait for him to do that bear hug, you got to know he's going to attack you, though.
So if these are target, which are useless?
What's that?
If these are target, what is useless?
What do you mean, what is useless?
What is a wasted effort trying to hit?
Oh, gotcha. So, I mean, for your sake, and again, there's, like, anything to the body, like solar plexus, stomach area. Solar plexus can be quite effective, but you have to get it just in the right area. You have to have training, right? So I wouldn't be wasting my time with that, or just like trying to hit him like this, right? Or, anything to the body, like, so I would focus more on those target areas. Not that there aren't other, the ours that we do uses a ton of different target areas outside of those. But again, you're talking a different thing when you're training every single week for years on end, right? You can make different things work, and we tend to do a lot of things where we use one strike to set up the next strike. Okay, so what I mean by that, and I put that in your tip sheet too, on the front page, is thinking about how your opponent is going to react with different strikes that we do to maximize the power of my next strike. Okay, so for example, if I hit him in the groin, how would his body probably react?
Bend forward.
Bend forward, probably holding what hurts, right? Okay, so if he bends forward, now what would be a logical
Nose.
right? Or just elbow to the throat, right? But so what I can do, so if I know, it will come up, I don't want to mess anything up over here. Okay. So if I, for example, knee him in the groin and I know he's going to fall forward, I can use that to my advantage by, as he's falling forward, follow up with a strike up here that he's going to fall into, right? Oh. So if I knee him in the groin and he falls forward, boom, right into my elbow to the throat, for example, right? Okay, so he's going to fall into it. So again, using his force against him, right? The harder he falls forward from me kneeing him in the groin, he can thank me for that later. Boom, the harder he gets hit with the next strike, or that half fist, or that strike to the eye. You can grab and pull him into it, right? But if you catch him when he's already down there, then like we said, that knee to the face would be a great option as well, right? So we can think strategically about how our opponent's going to react when we do one strike to help us decide our next strike. But obviously we can't do that in the situation where you're being attacked. But this is where you kind of create a few, you know, when you're home alone doing nothing, cleaning the house, whatever, just like think about, if somebody were to grab me from the front, what are some things that I can do? You need a plan for everything in life, right? And you need to prepare, and you're not going to be able to defend yourself just by listening to me talk today. You have to go home and apply these things and just think about them and practice them, and, you know, just formulate plans in your head, right? So so the only one we didn't talk about yet is the foot. So the little bones in the top of the foot here, very easy to break. It takes something like 3 pounds of pressure to break those little bones. So that's not a lot at all, right? So again, that's good for like he's behind me or on the side of me. So I can just drive my heel up and drive my heel down into the top of his foot. And again, I don't need to do this. Right? Because while I'm pulling it back down, he's pulling it away, right? So just a little motion right down with that heel. But you want to drive just the heel primarily, right? Again, you know, typically kind of the smaller surface area we're striking with, the, you know, more impact or more effective it's going to be. Okay, so just driving that heel down could be a good option for the foot. Okay? All right, so let's talk about a few like specific attacks. Okay, I listed some on the 3rd page. I'm gonna kind of do my own thing. I'm not sure if they're gonna be these exact techniques. I think they probably will be mostly. Okay, but you can look at those when you go home as well. But so let's take a shoulder grab from the side. And so with these type of classes, I tend to do a lot more grabs and things like that versus like strikes, because I think that's what we're more concerned with, right? We're not concerned with getting into a bar fight. Nobody's, no. Okay, good. Because don't do that. All right, so we're more concerned with the grab. So again, he probably would be grabbing me and yanking me to the side too, right? Trying to get me to go with him or down onto the ground. Okay, so again, I want to go with it. I'm not going to resist, try to pull away, okay? And I want that nice, stable stance, right? So what I'm going to do is step out and, boom, oh, bonus, I got his foot. Oops, sorry. That one's free. Not going to charge you for that one, but these two are going to cost a lot. Okay, so I'm going to step out. I can stomp that foot down. At the same time, I'm going to pin his hand. And remember, we talked about pulling our elbow down. That gives me greater leverage. Now, am I going to be able to sit here for 5 minutes with him like this? Of course not. He would be able to pull away, right? But I'm making it harder for him to do that. But I'm going to hit him when I do this. So he's not going to have a chance to pull away. Okay, so I have that stomp. What I'm going to do is take this hand, open up this hand. I'm going to come right from here and slide straight up his stomach and to his throat. Okay, so I'm contouring the form of his body. I'm not doing this because of that, right? I don't want him to see it coming. And if you're looking straight ahead, this is your blind spot, right? So this is your blind spot. So I'm going up that blind spot. So he can't see the strike coming. So again, we're using some strategy, right? Okay, if he can't see it, he can't block it. So I'm hand sword. Now when I hand sword him in the throat, what is that probably, and really bending those knees too, right? So really to drop that stance down. That way I have that stability. Okay, I'm stepping on the side of his foot, but you could stomp right on the foot as you do that. Okay, so if I hand sword him in the throat, what is that likely to make him do? He's probably, if he hits in the throat this way, he's going to go back like this, right? That's going to force him back. He probably will try to grab his throat with his other hand as well. Because usually we grab what hurts, right? Okay, but regardless, so what I'm going to do next is make that fist. So he's like this. I'm going to make that fist come around and hammer him in the groin. And did you see how that target came right out to me? So he practically hit himself. I didn't do anything. Nothing at all. Okay, so now you can see he can't see that one coming either, right? So that's the key. If we can make it so he can't see it coming and he doesn't have reaction time to stop it, because action beats reaction. So my action will beat his reaction if I do it properly, right? Okay, then I can stand a chance. Okay, and I just got 3 vital target areas, right? I got the foot, I got the throat, and I got the groin. Because again, typically, you know, if I'm just relying on just this, well, what if that didn't work? Or what if I missed, right? And that's where we can get into it. There's a million what-ifs in the world, right? Okay, but one of those will do something, right? Okay? So, and again, also remember, I'm going with it. So the harder he pulls me in, right, the harder he gets hit, right? And then the harder he goes back like this, the harder he gets hit with that strike. Okay? So there's an idea there. I think that one's on your list. I think that was actually the first one, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so that's on there. And when it talks about anchoring your elbow, that's what that's referring to, pulling that elbow down nice and tight. Okay? So I have like defense against two-hand wrist grabs, so that's the next one on there. So two-hand wrist grab, if he grabs my wrist, again, what I don't want to do is just try to pull away. I'm not going to win that battle, okay? But with his hands being on top right now, he has a bit of an advantage because, remember what I said a minute ago, action beats reaction. So if he chooses the action of coming up with one of those hands to hit me or change his attack, there's not much I'm going to be able to do to stop that because action beats reaction unless I set myself up for something. So what I'm going to do as he grabs me, and I'm going to do this with my first move, but I'm going to just turn my hands up. Okay, so I'm just turning my hands over. So what is this doing? Now I'm on top, so my action is likely to beat his reaction. But if he comes up to try to hit me or grab me or choke me with that hand, I can follow it and block it. But if he's on top, he's going to get me every single time. So just a simple technique there is turning your hands up so you have that control. Okay, and then again, I can, use those kicks. My hands aren't free, I use the kicks, okay? So if I can kick with each leg, okay? So I can get each shin, each leg, and then if he loosens up and lets me go, now I can do, if he's in this position, you can actually do that claw this way, right? But now I can do any of those strikes if I needed to follow up, if those kicks weren't enough. Because you want to do enough so that, especially it depends on how fast of a runner you are, right? Yeah. I don't run. When I was going to the track that day, it wasn't to run. It was just to walk. So that's not my strong suit. So I know I'm going to need to do enough to render him incapacitated enough for me to be able to safely turn and run, right? And I would probably recommend like walking backwards a bit first to make sure that he's not looking like he's going to come back in, because now I'm at a big disadvantage if I turn my back and run and he gets me by surprise. Won't be quite by surprise at that point, but so again, if you do multiple strikes, to make sure that you've done enough so that that can give you the time to get away, right? Okay, and then we have, I skipped the rear bear hug. Let's do the rear bear hug one. Okay, skipping over all over the place. All right, so again, and I kind of showed you a little bit of this concept, we'll kind of put it all together. So if he's grabbing me in this fashion, I should still be able to reach up and pin. If you can't, that's okay. But preference when you're grabbed is to always try to control those hands by pinning and again, pulling in tight. If I'm like this, he can slip away, right? So pinning in tight. And so if I step out, remember I want to create that nice strong stance. So if I step out with my left leg, I know that he's going to be open on my right side. So then that's when I'm going to close this fist, because even if he's got me in a tight bear hug, I can still swing my fist back, right? I'm going to close this fist, got him in the groin, right? And then from here, I can kind of open up and pull away his arms a little bit. I can stomp on his foot, and then there's that elbow to the throat. So I can bring my elbow up this way as well, right? So you can use those elbows in pretty much any fashion, way that works, depending on where the attacker is. Okay, so again, when I hit him in the groin, that causes him to fall forward into the elbow strike, right? Okay, and I got his foot. So again, you can see also too, we tend to like to do like 3 different strikes to 3 different target areas to give you the best chance to get away, okay? But that, and you can also just too, if, so we got, if that's kind of a little complicated, just pin, you can kick those heels behind you to the shin, just swing that back, right? But you know what weapons you have available to use if they're behind you, okay? I think we have one more on here. 2-hand grab, pull in, let's see, which one did I do? Okay, anyways, all right, so we're gonna grab, okay, so I'm gonna alter this a little bit because this one that I did starts with this strike to the stomach, but again, for women's self-defense, you have to be pretty accurate to cause an effect to the solar plexus. When you hit just right, that's when you knock the wind out of them, so it can be very effective. But so that is an option, but also, I think I showed you this before too, right? So if I hammer through his nose, Then what I could do is elbow down on this arm. In the mound of your forearm here, there's a nerve there, right? It's called the radial nerve, and it hurts. And it hurts, and it also will likely make his hand open up. That's kind of the like action it does. Okay, and it's also going to tilt him this way, so I could elbow down and then bring him right into that, right? Right into that, right? Okay, so some options there. But if I hammer, so again, see how I'm looking at what could work next? Like I'm not going to do this hammer and then think, oh, let's bring it back and do a strike to the throat, because that takes too much time. But from this hammer, that's ready, right? From this, that's ready. I didn't have to make any extra motion. So you always want to look at where you're at and what strike you could do next that wouldn't require you to make a lot of extra motion to get there. Okay, because again, you don't want to give your opponent an opportunity to figure out you're defending yourself. You want him on the ground and then be like, what the heck just happened? I don't know. I think. And he probably won't tell people that you beat him. But we hope that he does. No. But those are some ideas. And again, you know, there's a ton of, there's so much you can do with all this stuff. And there are a lot of other target areas. And there's a lot of what ifs we can answer. But, you know, in our martial arts system, we learned something called the self-defense equation. And it's like 8 specific scientific things that you can do to alter any situation to make it work. But again, that's a lot of learning, right? So for today's purpose, we just give you a few different ideas. But again, prevention, being aware of your environment, and carrying things on you that you can use, especially if you're like, okay, gosh, like, I'm not going to be able to make any of this stuff work. Just carry that personal alarm, right? Like if somebody starts approaching you and you press that, like, he's probably going to choose someone else, unfortunately, for the someone else, but we hope they have one too, okay? Or mace, right? Easy, easy. And they're coming at you, just mace them. but it also, too, is important to know how to use your hands and feet, because, you know, even if you carry all those things, you may be in a position where you don't have it ready. If you carry it, don't have your mace at the bottom of your purse, not carry it ready to go with your thumb ready to go on the thing, right? But you still may find yourself in a situation where you don't have that right on you. So that's why it is important to at least know some basic things of how we can use our hands and feet to protect ourselves if we need it. Okay. Does anybody carry a cane? Because like that's epic.
That's a good one.
Yeah. They have a whole martial arts called cane fu. Smash them. If you don't carry a cane, you should, just for the weapon aspect of it.
Goldie Hawn had her umbrella, right?
All right. Are there any questions that we can answer without having to have more knowledge? Yes.
You said to always keep your thumb on the outside, not on the inside.
Well, depending when you're making depending on the strike we're doing.
Strike or anything.
If we're striking here, yep, it's on top. If we're striking this way, it's pressed on the side.
But you never curl it in.
Never curl it in, because that you're gonna break it. Yeah. So when you make it, yep, yeah, good question. Yeah. So if we had our thumb curled inside, because that's also, I feel like, for some reason, our natural way to make a fist. I don't know, because I've been doing this most of my life, so that's not natural for me. But even like our little kids, because that's when you really can see what's natural to human behavior, right? Is like with the 4-year-olds, and they're always like this. But yeah, you'll break. This is going to collapse in. You'll likely break your knuckles, and you're definitely going to break that thumb in there.
Never turn it in.
Always on top if you're a fist, and ideally across to your pinky, right? That's where it's the most protected. Just because if it's here again, it could get caught and broken. And yeah, any of those strikes, with the exception of the tiger claw, because it's bent and forward, so you're not likely to have that problem. Yeah. Any other questions that we can think of? No. Yes.
When they're coming from behind, why couldn't you just whack your head into it?
You can. I'm just not a huge fan of headbutts, just because like my brain is pretty important to me, and I don't know how to. But it is a weapon. It is a weapon, and if you are, the thing about a headbutt from behind, and again, I would do strikes down low as well, but you're probably going to be getting a soft area like the nose, so it's likely to be pretty safe for you. You know, I wouldn't really.
That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, yeah. I never think to use my head because years ago I had brain surgery, so I just like I protect this and use these. But you certainly can. Your head is a bit, you know. Again, if you're striking a soft area like the nose, that's gonna be a lot more of a pain.
You also have to have a target the same size as you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing. That's the thing, because if they're really tall and you haven't, that's why I said I would do something like down here. Because if you hit them down here, then that'll bend them forward. But again, if you can't see what you're headbutting behind you, you may just be headbutting their chest. And again, now you're just possibly wasting precious seconds that you could have just, you know. But it is an option. And so especially if you're really tight and you feel like you can't do much with anything else, but the feet should always be free. But it certainly is an option. There's no rules, right? So you can expand upon what we talked about and think of how many other ways you can, you know, form your hands to cause destruction.
So are those 4 grabs that you showed the ones that are primarily done, or?
I think for women,
like
yeah, we can go. So actually, let me just show you a quick idea. I should have brought a rubber knife too, because I usually do this one because I think one of our big fears, right, is a guy coming up behind you with a knife. So, and that's, and I can still apply a lot of the same things that we talked about here, right? So I could step out here. But if you have that knife, now that adds like an extra risk, right? Because obviously that's the most, you know, dangerous thing right now. And this is the motion I need to prevent him from doing, right, in this position. So if I take my other arm, so the same arm, if he's grabbing with my right, I'm going to use my right, and I reach up around me to put my hand on my other cheek and pull this elbow down, and take my other hand and pin. Oops, sorry, a little eye poke back there too. I have the leverage here where he push as hard as he can. Okay, so he can spin me around, but he can't get that around my throat. And of course, at this point, I'm kicking, I'm stomping. I can even use this elbow back here, right? And then I would come around and break his wrist and take him down the ground. I know. Whenever I'm like, do you want to attack me for women's self-defense? Sure. But yeah, so if you just take the same arm that attacked you, which will probably be right? So a lot of the stuff that we do does assume that it's a right attack because 90% of the population is right-handed. But the same thing could work on all the other side. You're the 10%. It's not. So, but if we reach up with the same hand, put our hand on our other cheek, pull this elbow down, and you don't even actually have to pin with the other hand, but that provides better control so that they can't come around. But if you feel like you need to use that hand to strike, you can.
The reason I asked is back in school they used to say that if somebody grabs you here, the first thing you do is move your head.
Yeah,
into that, so you do or don't. So you do that and then move, because I never saw that one. That's
if you're being choked. So we were kind of talking about the knife attack, but changing gears to saying they don't have a knife and their arm is around your throat to choke you. Yes. So, and actually that's a really good tip. But if you're ever choked, anybody has their hands around your throat, you want to try to press your chin down, and ideally you want to press it down before their hands get all the way gripped around you. But by pressing your chin down, and if they're kind of more, like if he has me more around the side like this, I would press my chin down into him because there's an opening here, right? And that's going to make it so that we can breathe. Okay, so yes, absolutely. So if you're being choked in any capacity, if you push your chin down and you try to push it down as quickly as possible, because it's going to be more effective. Like if he already has a tight grip, it's not going to quite be as effective. It's going to still help a little bit, but if you can get that chin down as he's coming in, it's going to prevent him from getting a full grip, and it's going to make it so that you can breathe better. And that just gives you that time, but you're striking at the same time. Because again, if I'm just like standing like this, like he's going to overpower me. The most important thing is like as soon as you choose, and I always tell people too, like if you're in that situation, like odds are good he doesn't want to try to hurt you where you are. He wants you to get you to his safe place, right? So, you know, I always tell people, depending on the situation, you probably will have yourself a moment, because again, he doesn't want to hurt you right then. You can take a breath, act like, don't hurt me, I don't want to, and then you go for it, right? But the second you start moving to defend yourself, you got to do that strike right as soon as you start to move, because then he knows you're going to be trying to defend yourself. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yes.
You know how a lot of guys wear those big, like, work boots?
it matter what you're wearing on your feet to do that move on there? Will it still work?
So if I had like sandals or something like that on, I might not choose to do something like, because it's just probably going to be a little less effective, because obviously your shoe provides it for it. But obviously it still would be effective, but you know, you're going to risk possibly breaking your toes more easily if you had something like an open toe shoe on or whatever. So I mean, a stomp could still work and things like that, but those are the things you want to consider. Right? When you're leaving your house, like, again, you know, it's, okay, if somebody attacks me today, but those are the things you consider. If you know you tend to wear, like, those would be fantastic, but if you get some nice heels, right? Yeah. But if you know you tend to wear a lot of open-toed shoes, things like that, then you might want to be aware of that. That might, yeah, because if you have a nice thick, or like a steel toe shoe, that's epic, right?
So you're looking to get a quick hit to separate and get yourself out.
That's the idea.
To trying to off balance and get them on the floor.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I wanna, and that's what our art is all about. We're not, because I always tell people, like, oh, do you do tournaments? The art we do isn't a tournament art. It's not for winning trophies, because everything we do in a ring would be illegal. I mean, you could see I can't even make any contact with any of this stuff with him, or he would be going to the hospital after, right? Because it's not meant to like play around with or roll around in a ring or lock people up. I mean, things like that. It's meant to do as much damage as you can, as quickly as you can, and get away as quickly as you can. Especially for your purpose where you're not training in a dojo every week, right? You just want to be able to do something that's going to stop that opponent from being able to continue attacking you even if he wants to, and get away. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. You guys were awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy to come back in the future too if you want a refresher course or a part 2. But awesome.
And maybe if anybody wants to get a class together, we can have Mandy come for a whole class and continue it.
Absolutely.
She's right in Whitensville.
Yeah, Family Cry Center. Yeah.
Across from Peg's Diner.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep, that's where her studio is.
Yeah.
No, it's right on the main street.
Right on
You
the
can
main
park
street
in the
there,
back,
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right
like
next to a little
Valley
restaurant.
Cafe, barbershop.
Yeah.